in the second half of the second chapter of James, a man is hypothesized coming to James or coming to you, claiming to be a Christian saved by grace through faith, saying, I have faith, but I don't have any deeds. I just have faith, and that saves me. And James then hypothesized 4 different answers, as if 4 different people with 4 different focuses answered. We've looked at the person who is the compassionate man. How does he, with his emotional compassion, look at this Christian who says he has faith only and has no works? And then we looked at the man who answers that faith only man by saying, as a practical man, a common sense man, who kind of takes the argument apart using common sense. And in this verse, we have another question. What will the man say who is focused, the Christian who is focused on spiritual warfare, the other world, the unseen world, who knows all about the unseen world? How is that man going to answer and rebut the faith-only person? He does have a rebuttal. So let's look at what his rebuttal is before we go on to the much longer part, in the final part of the chapter, of the man I call Jewish heritage man. Might be a Jew, he might be an Old Testament scholar. How does he answer this faith-only person? Now, we are saved by grace through faith, apart from our works. But James wants to point out something about the visibility of faith through works in this second half of the chapter. So we will go into the verses relevant, 14, and then on to today's verse, 19.
An interest in the Savior's blood, died he for me, who caused his pain, for me who him to death pursued.
So, to the letter of James, sometimes called the general epistle of James, where this faith-only person has hypothesized, he says, what good is it, my brothers, if a man claims to have faith, but has no deeds? Can such faith save him? James is asking the question, is this really biblical faith? The person who says, I don't have any works. I don't have any Christian good works. I only have faith. Then we'll see the third answer today. The person who is looking at the unseen world. He addresses this faith-only Christian, and he addresses him this way. Verse 19. You believe that there is one God? Good! Even the devils believe that and shudder. The devils shake in their boots, as we would say, when they think about the fact that there is one God. But they believe it's true. What are all the other facts that the devils believe? They believe that God created the world. They were there and saw it. They believe that Jesus died on a cross. They saw that too. They believe that on the third day, Jesus rose from the dead. The demons saw that happen and were terrified. The demons were quite aware, and they're still quite aware of the biological and moral purity of Mary. And have I covered all 5 of them? They believe all these things, but there is something they don't believe. They do not believe that God will keep his promises. Well, they think he might keep his promises, but they hope he won't keep his promises. They hoped that Jesus would not stay sinless. Satan tempted him in the wilderness, hoping to trip Jesus up, because if he tripped Jesus up, the devil would win. The demons are angels who rebelled against God. Well, why would they rebel? Oh, let's go rebel against God so that in the end we will burn forever in torment. You think? Well, we'll have fun until then. You think? No, I don't think so. What did Satan do in the garden? He lied. What is the character of Satan? He's the father of lies. Well, how did he get millions of angels to go with him in rebellion against God and become what we call the demons? He lied to them. He said God won't keep his promises. His plan of sending the Word, who is God, to the earth in human form eventually, and we see that he's already told us that plan. When that happens, it won't work. As a man, he'll trip up. Will become equal with God. They don't believe that God will keep all the promises of what will happen in the end. They don't believe God's promise that one angel with one chain will chain up Satan. They don't believe that. It's God's promise. They don't believe it. Faith is about God keeping his promises, and we trust that God will keep his promises. And that is the difference between a Christian and a demon. Knowing a lot of facts and assenting to, yes, that fact is true. Well, it says right on the card, Jesus, I believe that this fact is true, and I believe this fact about you is true, and I believe this fact about me is true. And so because I believe these facts, I claim salvation. It's believing that God will keep his promise. He says, he that believes in me will never die. That's a promise. Do you believe it? So I'm not dissing somebody coming to God through various evangelistic ways and saying, yes, I believe these things, and putting his faith in God, but the saving part is the believing that God in Christ Jesus will keep his word, keep his promises to us who believe in him. And when we believe in him, I'm going out of the verse a little bit here, but to everything else that James is saying, when we believe in him, we will have good deeds. Our faith will cause good deeds because we'll see the promises and will respond to the conditions of the promises. If you don't tithe and if you don't give offerings, your wallet will have a hole in it. It says there right in the Old Testament scriptures. If you don't give freely and according to God's plan, your wallet will have a hole in it. Now, you're still saved. That's why he says, not under compulsion. You don't have to give under compulsion. You give what you feel's right. But you've shortchanged the tithe because you feel that's right. And then you wonder where the money went. God made a promise. He keeps that promise. He says, test me and you'll see. See, the devils, they tested God thinking he wouldn't keep his promise. We test God in one thing, knowing he will keep his promise. We turn to him in our initial faith because we know he will keep his promise. And we trust through our lives, knowing that we will be forever with him because we know he will keep his promise. And that promise is a hope. And John says that everyone who has that hope purifies himself. And there's your deeds. If you have the hope that comes from faith, faith in God's promises, faith in God's saving power, faith in God's grace, you will purify yourself, and that will be visible in your deeds. Just as the non-faith of the demons is visible in their deeds.